it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson, thank you for making us a part of your Monday. That is today, right? By the way, shout out to my guy, Chris Barney.
Okay. Works for the Utah Jazz.
He's a big deal. He helped us out with some tickets, and my daughter Maggie had her first Jazz game on Saturday.
Oh, very cool.
My daughter Sadie had been to one previous, but she was only like 2 or 3, so she didn't really remember. So my daughters got basically their first Jazz game experience on Saturday. And you know what was cool about it, Ben? It was Kids Day. So it was, yeah, they had kids doing the announcing, and they had kids bear costume.
Yeah. Did the baby race?
Yeah. It turned out to be a super cool day for my kids to be there. So shout out to Chris. Really appreciate his help. But point being, Ben, and then we can talk some college football. Let's do all Saturday afternoon games.
Oh,
just
great.
Play them in
Everybody
the
liked it.
Everybody loves it.
Will Hardy talked about how much he liked it. Lowry talked about how much he liked it. Yeah. All the young players talked about how much they liked it.
And listen, my kids can't come to Jazz games because if I tried to get my 3-year-old to stay up till 10 o'clock, by the time it to get home and all that stuff, she would burn the house down. She would.
Yeah.
She would burn the house down like like Jack in The Incredibles. And my 7-year-old's probably not making it to 10 either. You know what I mean? It's just so hard to bring kids. And so the Saturday afternoon is so convenient for families. But you know what it's not convenient for, Ben? Television, which makes all the decisions ever. And so we all have to just stink and live with it because, more people will watch TV at night than during the day.
And I looked at the crowd as it was filling in, and like 10 minutes before the game, I was like, oof, this is empty. This is one of the less filled games I've ever seen for the Jazz. And I get it. They're not playing well. BYU was playing at the time. I thought people were going to go to the Utah game. Yeah. Midway through the second quarter, the place was packed.
Full. It's probably because they were families, and it's hard to get anywhere on time when you're with a family.
Right. So they were happy to do it. So, no, I would love to have them more often. Usually there's like a reason they do it. Usually they're like highlighting international players that will play like at a reasonable time in their home country.
Right.
There was none of that. I don't know why they did it, but they should do it more often.
Here's why they should do it, Ben. Because the actual fan of the team, the actual fan that pays tickets to go to it, that's watching it day in and day out, never gets anything. Never.
Yeah.
We're not going to make it convenient for you. We're not going to make it easy for you. We're certainly not going to make it cheap for you. So give them something. A 3 p.m. tip on a Saturday is amazing.
No, I loved it.
All right. There you go. Rant over. Ben, I love being right.
Okay.
More than anything in the world. That's almost true. Kalen DeBoer was a terrible hire for Alabama.
Okay. That's where you want to go. Okay.
They got steamrolled by Oklahoma, who also sucks.
I did think about you when I saw the score and I saw the pick 6 in the second half, and you thought, Alabama's in trouble. It's 3 losses. And for the first time, Alabama does not lose 3 games ever. They'll lose to Georgia twice in a season when Georgia's going to win the national title. But no, they don't lose 3 regular season games ever.
But they do, because that's happened a lot at Alabama.
But not since Saban took over.
One coach.
Yeah.
Now, listen, it's easier to win at Alabama than it is at a lot of schools because it's been proven over and over again. I mean, Bear Bryant, Gene Stallings had a national championship, I think, right? And obviously Nick Saban did what he did. But that doesn't mean that just anybody can win there. You have to have the right coach with the right game plan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I heard a familiar opinion the other day coming out about Utah, which I could not disagree more with, which applies to Alabama too, where they need to find this electric offense. They just have to. They have to find this electric offense. They got to move up with the times and blah, 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 blah. That's not what wins at Utah. That's certainly not what wins at Alabama. What DeBoer was doing at Washington, you don't have to do it at Alabama.
Yeah.
And when you try to do it at Alabama, you're probably not going to be as good at it as other places. But you know what you can get at Alabama, Ben? The biggest, strongest, and fastest athletes in the country. So play a brand of football that takes advantage of having the biggest, strongest, fastest athletes in the country. You don't have to have the best quarterback in the country to win at Alabama. Quite the contrary. You have to have a quarterback with a pulse, and that's about it. But if you go into this, well, we're going to sling it 45 times, if you don't have John Elway, you're going to lose. So why would you do that at Alabama? You could do that at Washington, where they don't even play high school football, basically, in Washington. It's not like you can just recruit anybody at Washington. There's a reason that Washington and Oregon are rarely good at the same time, because there's just not enough players in that part of the country. It's not a problem at Alabama.
Jalen Milroe is certainly talented and has had some huge games. He was simply atrocious in this game. He was 11 of 26, 164 yards passing, 3 interceptions, 0 touchdowns. One of his best skills is he is a true dual threat quarterback. He is very dangerous with his legs. And let's see, what did he have? 15 carries for 7 yards. So obviously faced a ton of pressure. But you're right. Oklahoma's 6-5 on the season. This is not 10-2 SEC Oklahoma having arrived in their conference for the first time. This is number 7 Alabama having themselves set up to go to the SEC title game and absolutely whiffing at a critical moment.
Do you? I hope you don't. Do you have the box score up in front of you?
I did, but I just moved away from it.
Give me your estimate on total rushing yards from Oklahoma.
Oh, from Oklahoma? Jeez. I imagine they held onto the ball a lot. 180 is like a good game. 180 you're happy with. So I'll say 205.
260.
Yeah.
260 yards. You hear that? That's Bear Bryant rolling over in his grave. They had Jackson Arnold had 131 yards on 25 rushes. Xavier Robinson had 18 carries for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. When have you ever heard of Alabama getting run over by anyone?
Getting trucked like that? No. That doesn't
anyone.
happen. Georgia, not that we need to focus too much on the SEC, though. Georgia has punched its ticket to the SEC championship game, and the SEC is somewhat similar now to the Big 12, where there are a handful of teams that have a chance to make it.
I feel terrible today for Jackson Dart because that dude is so good, and he had a good game against Florida, except for one stretch. Was it the fourth quarter or the third quarter, Ben, where he threw those interceptions right in a row, and it just sunk him?
Yep.
I mean, he just had a bad few minutes, and now he's just the GOAT because Ole Miss totally blew it.
And they were in the same spot. Had they won that game, especially with Alabama losing, they would be in a sweet spot to make the SEC title game.
Totally blew it. And it sucks for that guy because he's really good.
He was probably going to finish third in the Heisman race, and honestly, this could hurt him enough to not even finish third.
And then Indiana loses to Ohio State. Can we agree that these massive conferences just suck because nobody plays anybody? Because Indiana is okay.
Yeah, they're fine. They're fine.
They're okay.
Yeah.
They're not the fifth best team in the country and never were.
Okay, so that's a good talking point. Because Indiana this is their first good team they've played.
Yep.
All year. They've played the Rutgerses, right? They've played the Marylands of the world. They've played the lesser of the Big Ten teams.
Their best win before this was probably Nebraska?
Okay.
At least they're bowl eligible. They beat here it is, just to lay it out. FIU, Western Illinois, UCLA, Charlotte, Maryland, Northwestern, Nebraska, Washington, Michigan State, Michigan.
Okay. They lose a game. Everyone says they got exposed. We're guilty of it as well. People are saying the exact same thing about BYU. Do you think that's accurate?
I don't think they were ever the sixth best team in the country, no.
BYU.
But at least they had a better resume. That's not a resume.
No, they have zero resume.
BYU has legit wins.
Yeah. SMU continues to look better and better. SMU has a real chance to go to the college football playoff.
I don't think the Cougs were ever the sixth rated. I got why they were, and they actually deserved it. I'd make the argument they deserved that ranking because of the games that they'd won. But I don't think BYU was ever the sixth best team in the country.
Okay.
I don't think Indiana was ever that good. But maybe Ohio State. I mean, I think Ohio State's good, but like my point is, these conferences are so big now.
Yep.
None of these teams play each other.
No, you can have some fluky games or fluky runs and schedules where you may think that BYU having to play Oklahoma State, Utah, and Arizona, was that 3 straight weeks? Whatever. I know that's not the right order, but it was maybe 3 games in 4 weeks. It was in between their 2 bye weeks. You thought that's going to be a murderer's row, and those teams fall apart. And look, you can only play who's on your schedule, but it does allow you to jump up to 8-0 or wherever BYU was after getting those wins without actually facing a truly difficult opponent in the stretch outside of SMU early in the year.
Like, I don't think Penn State's very good. I don't know. And they're 10-1, and they should have lost to Minnesota over the weekend. But their best win, Ben, is Illinois at the beginning of the year. They beat 21-7 in, I guess, game 4. But, I mean, here's theirs. West Virginia, Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, UCLA.
Illinois is okay.
USC, Wisconsin, lost to Ohio State, Washington, Purdue, and now Minnesota.
Yeah, Illinois is their best win.
By like a ways.
Yeah. I do think this is an argument in favor of the playoff. It may be an argument against these super conferences where, you have 32 teams. We may never learn anything about anybody other than the one game you play all year against your rival that has some leverage.
This is counterproductive and maybe a little bit melodramatic, but they are ruining the sport. I mean, the greed and the self-interest and all the things is totally ruining the sport. You can't tell me we wouldn't be better off from an overall health of the sport standpoint if we cut these leagues in half and made 3 extra leagues where these teams will actually play each other and we're actually going to have something like that. Like, to have these mega conferences is a loss across the board because you know what? The Big Ten, for the most part, sucks. From school 3 down is hot garbage. The SEC is a little deeper than that, but the bottom of the SEC isn't anything special. Mississippi State is nothing special.
No, you know what I love?
Like, it's a bunch of these teams that play each other and then we don't know anything. And I don't know. It's taken the interest out of it, I think.
I love a true round robin. I love when you play everybody in your conference. There is no doubt. There's no tiebreaker. There's a 4-team tiebreaker scenario going into the end of the Big 12 schedule. And it's one of 3 conferences of the 4 major ones that have these types of headaches that they're trying to figure out who's going to make the title game this year. And I'm glad there's a title game. Like, I'm glad there are ways to prove this on the field. But yeah, all these tiebreaker scenarios are insane because there are too many teams playing in conference that allows this type of parity, which you would think was good, but actually might hurt the product.
Well, the other thing is you play the team the next year, which is interesting in and of itself. Like, let me think of a good example for this. In 2007, Utah got run over by Frank the Tank and UNLV. I think it was 07. Does that sound right? Or was it 06? Anywho, doesn't matter.
07, because the next year they go undefeated.
So UNLV beats them.
If I remember correctly.
In Vegas.
Yep.
Humiliating loss.
Mm-hmm.
Utah plays them next year. And who sings the big payback? Who sings that? Is that the Temptations? Whatever. All week long, the big payback is playing in practice. And everybody's talking about, that game, that was a fluke. We're not going to let that happen to us. And I don't know what the final score is, but they went out and mopped the floor with UNLV.
Yep.
Like, that stuff is cool. That's what makes college football great. Those relationships. That's what BYU was missing in independence. You never played those teams ever again. But can you imagine if Utah? No, I suppose you could. But it would have sucked if Utah didn't play UNLV again for another 4 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It wouldn't even feel like you were in the same league. I don't know. I don't like it.
I'm with you.
The Big Ten is a bunch of patty cake schedules and paper giants.
Well, okay, and we're going to do the Big 12 power poll tomorrow. What are you confident in the Big 12? What do you know?
The Big 12 has a different problem. The Big 12 doesn't have it's the same problem the Pac-12 had for years. They don't have a great team.
They don't have an elite team.
They have a bunch of
pretty good
okay
teams.
programs.
Yeah, they're a bunch of pretty good teams. BYU's a pretty good team.
Good to pretty good.
Kansas is pretty good.
Right. But
Colorado's pretty good.
They've got twice as many of those pretty good teams as the other leagues.
They do.
So all of a sudden, these pretty good teams don't have pretty good records because they all have to play each other.
Yeah, they all beat up on each other, which is where, again, I do
And
argue
it's not
in
even
favor
all.
of your champion getting an automatic bid. I think that's a plus. I'm glad that has happened.
I do too, because you got to keep the conference to mean something, or else what's the point? So no, I agree with you there, and it's still a problem with the Big 12 that there's too many teams, and I don't like their scheduling. Their scheduling is too random. I like the concept of divisions because you get to know these other teams and that sort of thing, and that's not the direction that they're going to go, and I don't like that. But the Big 10 has how many good teams? One?
No, two. Oregon and Ohio State are good.
Okay, two.
Yeah, they have two. I feel very confident they have one really good team and another pretty good team in Ohio State.
I have no idea if Penn State is good. Or I have no idea if look at Penn State's. I just had it up. Look at their schedule. What would, say, BYU have gone with that schedule? West Virginia, Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, lost to Ohio State, Washington, Purdue, Minnesota. They'd have maybe one more loss, maybe.
Oh, I don't know if they would. I think they have an identical record.
They're identical record, so I have no idea if Penn State is any good. I don't think Indiana is that great.
No, we know.
Then
Indiana's not great.
where were we going from there? Northwestern might be the worst program in the country. Purdue, Maryland,
Rutgers,
Wisconsin's a mess.
Illinois is okay.
They just threw a parade for Nebraska. I don't know if you heard this, Ben, right down Main Street, Lincoln, because they became bowl eligible for the first time in like 20 years.
One thing I think we do know about the Big 12, for sure, is there is only going to be one team in the college football playoff from the Big 12.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah. And I didn't think there was really a chance that there would be more than one, even after last week's results. After this week's results, where everybody has at least two losses, there's not a chance. You have to win the Big 12 title game.
Even the Deion celebrity factor isn't going to get them over the finish line if they lose another one?
Nope.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's maybe an outside hope, especially had maybe BYU won this weekend and all these other teams, 7 top 25 teams lost, including a bunch in the top 15. Maybe you would have had an outside chance to get a second one in there, but no, that's not going to happen.
How long is it going to last for old Kalen at Alabama?
I'm going to give him a little bit more leeway than you are, because I do think he's a good coach. The problem is he's not a Nick Saban caliber of coach, which Nick Saban won 6 championships since 2008. He's stupid.
He might be a good coach. He's the wrong coach.
Maybe. I don't know where the right coach is to replace Saban.
Wrong coach.
I don't know who the right coach is to step in and fill that spot.
Why has Pete Carroll been the best coach at USC? Because he was the right fit. He knew what it took to win at USC. Right? That's the whole argument for giving Morgan Scalley the Utah job. Is he knows what it takes to win at Utah. He knows what the recipe is. And it's right. That's correct. That's a true fact. I think the people that criticize Utah don't know what the recipe is. I think the people that thought Troy Taylor was going to throw it 45 times, I don't think they know what the recipe to win at Utah is. That's the problem.
But legitimately, there's one person who knows the recipe to how to win at Alabama, not named Nick Saban, and he's the head coach at Georgia. I don't know what else to
disagree with
do.
That. I bet you Sark. I bet you any of those guys.
You think those guys would have done better?
I think those guys that came up under Nick, or hire a pro coach.
Belichick? I don't know. Belichick's not going to go out.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be a big name pro coach.
Take his girlfriend with him. She knows them. Same age. She could get some of those kids to come in, maybe. No, I don't. Yeah, I think that's an impossible spot to fill. I think it's nearly impossible.
Well, replacing a legend is never easy, but one thing about replacing a legend, I would take calculus as to what made the legend successful in the first place and try to replicate that.
I'm not going to write DeBoer off yet.
I bet he doesn't make it through next year.
Oh, okay. That's a hot take. Staple that to the wall. We need a hot take list. Christian, you got a new job. Go back and listen to our last 6 months of shows and find our hottest takes.
I think any program.
Put them in a doc for us.
I think any program that has the arrogance to think they're automatically on top year after year, regardless, is a lesson to learn. And I know that blue bloods stick around and are at the top of college sports for a reason and resources and on and on and on and on. But just because Nick Saban succeeded at Alabama doesn't necessarily mean just anybody can.
No, but I don't think. I mean, they didn't hire just anybody. DeBoer was DeBoer is one of the better coaches in college football.
I don't necessarily disagree with that take, but how do you know that? I mean, he coached for 2 seconds at Washington. He coached for 2 seconds at Fresno State. And he was a coordinator at Indiana.
It's not a huge resume. I don't think Kirby Smart's leaving Georgia for Alabama.
When Gary
they would have taken him.
Well, maybe that's a little bit.
And I'm not
stretch.
taking Sark. I mean, DeBoer's got a better resume than Sark. I get that Sark has been there before.
Which was my point.
Yeah. But I might go with...
I would have paid Kirby whatever it took.
Yeah, sure. He probably still didn't leave. Didn't want to leave.
Yeah, I know.
And he got Georgia back to the SEC championship game this year.
But somebody who knew what it took to... I mean, Kirby is winning at Alabama the same way that Nick originally won at Alabama, or at Georgia the way that he originally won at Alabama.
And DeBoer does not have the DNA. He has not been there. He's not been in the building.
And how many number 1 picks at quarterback has Georgia had during Kirby's run?
0.
How many first rounders has he even had?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, Stafford went to Georgia, right? But
that was not.
That was pre-Kirby.
Pre-Kirby, yeah. Was it Beck? Is that their guy this year?
Well, they had that same guy for like 25
Might be
years.
A first-round pick, but...
Yeah, right.
No, I'm with you.
All right. Stay tuned. We'll have more coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, bro. You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what you doing?
Well, now, it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
Cheap bangs. Cheap bangs.
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Who's got it better than us?
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake, Scott, Ben Anderson. Did you see Charles Barkley barbecuing Bronny James?
No, did he? I missed it.
We might have to...
Okay.
We might have to get to that later. Maybe not today, because we've got Whit here.
Yeah.
But love Charles.
Okay.
Can't go on the road with the G League team because it can't fly. Can't fly commercial. I mean,
Not me.
what would happen? I mean, does Cristiano Ronaldo fly commercial? I doubt it. Lionel Messi fly commercial? I doubt it.
I'm Bronny James.
Bronny James, man. All right, it's time for Coach Whit, his weekly press conference. Let's listen in.
Scoring points, good on third down, good in the red zone. So it'll be a challenge for our defense this week to face that, particularly that rushing attack. So questions?
I got Justin's question.
You the spokesperson? Okay, got it.
It's a two-parter.
Two-parter today. Wow.
It
Okay.
would seem that the old Pac-12 schools, not just Utah, have had a difficult time adjusting to the Big 12 conference. Do you have any thoughts as to why this is? Also, and we all have this question, any thoughts about completing your 21st year with the University of Utah?
Okay. Well, it's my 20th year. Are you talking about next year? Oh, next year. Okay. Okay, let's see. First part, Pac-12. Well, Colorado's having no problem adjusting, as Arizona State isn't either. They're both seem to be faring very well. In fact, I believe they're two of the 4 teams that still have possibilities to play in the championship game, if I got that right. You okay? Okay. Then there's us, who obviously have our own struggles. Who am I missing? Who else? Arizona. Arizona is pretty much where we are, I guess, in the for the year, and so I don't have a good answer for it. Football's cyclical in a lot of ways, and you just got to do the best you can. But I know that, like I said, those two, Colorado and Arizona State, are seemingly making a very strong transition. Second part, my 21st year, yeah, I will, obviously evaluate after the season's over, see what the situation is, but my decision will be made on what's best for the program, not what's best for me. So it'll be completely determined on how I feel this program is best served going forward. And so, yeah, that's where that is. Okay.
Kyle, kind of piggybacking off of that decision, you have an offensive coordinator hire that you have to make, a transfer class that I'm sure you're thinking about. Will you make that decision after all of those moves are done?
Can't tell you for sure. It's just, like I said, after the final game's finished, Friday, 4 days from now, 5 days from now, sit down and evaluate everything. I can tell you right now that Coach Scally will be involved in decisions going forward because it's only right that he does that because he's the coach in waiting, and when that time comes, we need to make sure that he's had input on big decisions, and so it'll be a team effort in that respect going forward as far as hiring and recruiting and that type of thing.
Given the quarterback situation this year, how much of a priority is it to get a starter level quarterback out of the field?
Yeah, well, we gotta solve our quarterback problems. I can tell you that, and that has been a difficult thing this year, and we're now on our 5th QB, and we got one left after that. We have 6 total in the program, so Dallin Ingeman will be backing up Luke Batari in this game, and that's all she wrote. After those two, I don't have a good answer, so we hope it doesn't come to beyond that. But quarterback, as I've said over and over, the most important position in football, in team sports, period. And you better be good there if you want to have a chance to win. And so we've got to evaluate, just like I've got to evaluate my situation, we've got to evaluate the quarterback situation and make sure we have ourselves covered for next year. I guess that's the best answer I can give. PK.
Will Isaac be ready for spring ball?
Yes, we think that is going to be the case. There's still a few more evaluations that need to take place, but it's looking like spring ball is in play. Yeah.
And then with the transfers, obviously they've already been through the recruiting process. I'm wondering, where do they place as priority as far as NIL?
Incoming portal transfers for us?
Yes.
The top priority is being able to retain your own roster and the players on your roster that are particularly the key guys, and then you also have key roles that need to be filled through the portal, via the portal, and so that will be right there at the top of the list. And so we've already begun the process of having conversations with our own players and making sure that we got everything in order there, and then we move on to the next phase, which is the portal, and then of course your incoming freshmen will be involved in that as well. But portal will be a priority for us. I foresee being 10 to 15 players from the portal roughly, and that could change by a guy or two, but that's about the projection.
Kyle, last year you said was the worst for injuries you've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
Is this year worse? And is there anything that can be done to avoid this happening again?
Well, that's a good question. Which one is worse? They're both been challenging. We did make a lot of adjustments in our fall camp and our ramp up to the season, which did pay dividends. We had, like I said, way back when, 70% fewer soft tissue injuries, but the injuries that we're incurring now, I don't know if you can do anything about that through training and all that stuff, but we certainly made a huge step forward in the soft tissue, which last year was a problem big time. And so I'm not a doctor or a physical therapist, but we feel like we're doing everything we can. We have a great strength program that our guys get bigger and stronger, and it's just I really have no great answer other than we looked at it from every angle this year, and we'll do it again after the season and try to continue to make progress in that regard.
And then, not to nail you down to a specific date, but how important is it for you to make a decision as soon as possible for recruiting some players?
Well, with the coach and waiting in place, we already have that discussion with recruits that when that time comes, here's what the plan is, and so it's not like the recruits and our own guys don't know what the succession plan is, and so that takes some of the edge off it, and it would be a whole lot different if we didn't have that plan in place, because then if when that time comes, it would be anybody's guess, what's going to happen and who's it going to be, but they know exactly what the plan is, and that again was the real reason for laying down that plan several months ago when it was announced.
Kyle, so many coaches, Nick Saban, the basketball coach recently, they've all sort of not been driven out of the game, but it played a factor. NIL played a factor in their decision. The game wasn't what it was for them, 20 years some ago, whenever they became head coach.
Right.
Does that impact your decision at all, the way the game's changed and evolved?
I think everything impacts that decision, and NIL is certainly the biggest game changer of them all. With the portal, they're kind of linked together in a way, and players, just the challenge of so much turnover in your roster, and playing for the love of the game now that's kind of a thing of the past. I mean, there's players that love football and would play if there wasn't NIL. I mean, that's not. I'm not saying that, but that seems to have taken a back seat to as far as their decision making anyway. Where am I going to play? It's who's got the best financial opportunity, and I guess you can't blame them. I mean, this is life-changing money for a lot of these guys that their families and everybody will benefit from, and so even it's here to stay. If you don't like it, get out, because it's not going to change, and so adapt or go a different direction, I guess.
To kind of follow up on that, Cam was seen on the sideline for the first time in a while in a boot. What, I guess, have you picked up on in terms of his decision, and how early or soon do you expect him to make a decision on his future?
I talked to Cam after the game Saturday, and we are going to visit this week and catch up and touch on that as well. What his plans are, and I have no inside scoop or anything right now as to what he's thinking. He's just just try to give him some space and let him sort things out and decide which direction he wants to go, and so have a better answer after this week. But again, that's on Cam's timeline, and obviously we've got to at some point make our own decisions on what's going to happen if there's still indecisiveness. But I think that should be cleared up in the next week to 10 days. Yeah.
Was Isaac hurt when he was taken to the ground, or was he hurt on the ground when he was?
I think it was the rollover. Yeah, I think
there was no penalty. He was already down on the ground. And players
you're talking to the wrong guy about referees and penalties and what's going on there. I just don't. I don't even want to get into it, but no, the initial tackle was not what caused. It was the finish of the tackle, or however you want to term it, and that's what it was.
So piggybacking off of Cam's future, there are a couple of other guys who have been out for the season with injuries, mainly Kenan Johnson and Levani Mooney. Have you heard anything from the two of them regarding their future? Yeah,
they both would like to come back as of our most recent conversations. Now that, again, is just like everything, is subject to change. But Levani's been rehabbing and doing very well. And if he decides to come back, he'll be ready to roll in January with off-season conditioning and jump right into it. Kenan's a different story. He was a very significant injury, and doctors, I've heard some opinions that maybe all the way up until fall camp before he'd be ready to try it, maybe not even quite at the beginning of fall camp. So that's a lot more extensive and a lot more to it than Levani. But they both have indicated that they would love to come back for another year, at least as of our last conversation, which has been a while with those two guys.
All right, there you go, Coach Whitt, his weekly press conference. He'll do what's best for the team, Ben.
He's going to make his decision for whether he's going to coach next year based on what the team needs, not what he needs, which you can read a lot of different ways,
I suppose. All right, we'll wrap up the show next. Stay tuned, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present?
This is JJ and Alex.
I'm worried about Jake Retzlaff throwing the non-fade fade that we've now seen 2 weeks in a row that end in an interception. And why wouldn't it? He threw it straight to the defender 2 weeks in a row. You've got to do better than that. Got to take care of the football. That was the difference in the game. Not the ball off the helmet. The stuff you can help has to be buttoned up if you're going to be a college football playoff team. In fact, by the way, may you never speak of the college football playoff until you get yourself into the Big 12 championship game. The college football playoff, don't want to hear about it. There's a lot of stuff that has to get buttoned up for BYU before they can put themselves in the situation where they're going to be playing Coach Prime in the Big 12 championship game in Arlington. Arizona State is now become the biggest game on their schedule as you can imagine. The 16th team in the preseason poll versus the 13th team in the preseason poll. One is 9-1 and the other is 8-2. What a phenomenal thing football is.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two amigos on the airways, talking sports. They got him Matrix and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his...
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This segment brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free and home estimate, 801-566-1255, Peach Doors and Windows. Ben, so much of today's show has been about vengeance. And I want to hit you with one story real quick.
Okay.
Something that I'm absolutely for.
Well, you were for the vengeance.
Yeah, right.
What do you mean?
Well, apparently...
You've been for violence all day.
This has nothing to do with violence. Apparently, American Airlines is putting like an alarm in their boarding thing where if you're in the wrong group, it sounds like an alarm. Like if you're in group 2 and you try to board with group 1,
okay,
it sounds an alarm. 1,000% for it. The people should be booed as they go to the back of the line.
Thrown off the plane.
Maybe from thrown off the plane. And don't give me this, I didn't know. There's only the number of the group you're boarding with posted
everywhere.
On
your ticket or your phone
let
or
alone
whatever.
The person speaking on the thing. Let alone the people that are all standing around waiting for their group, like boxing everybody out. You know what I mean?
I have.
Oh, I thought I was in first class. I had no idea.
I have
that
real
person
sympathy.
should be absolutely booed and ridiculed until they're at the back of the line.
I have sympathy for people who work at the airlines. I do. The gate manager or whatever, or the person making $3.75 an hour who has to have people yell at them because they showed up late for their trip. I truly, or they don't control the weather. I feel bad for those people. So if this makes their life better, I accept it. It seems unnecessary to me. I don't know. Is this an epidemic? People are getting a zone early. And what's it doing? Is it really slowing down flight? If it's slowing down flights nationwide, okay, I'm all for it. It seems like overkill.
They're stealing from the people that paid to be in that group.
I'm a Group 3 member. I paid for it.
Now, I'm not saying that they should be batoned like the field stormers, but booed and ridiculed on their way to the back, yes.
The alarm that goes off, because you have to scan your thing,
so
it will automatically do it. And this takes the blame off of the onus off of the gate agent,
right,
and puts it on the alarm itself.
Yeah, the alarm's going off. Get out of here, dude.
I'll see you.
I'll see you in zone 8.
I guess I'll go to the back of the line, and then everyone watches that person the rest of the boarding process. Then once they're sitting in their seat as they board, you're right.
And then are you skipping the line ever again?
Never again.
Of course not.
You've been embarrassed once. You got the...
Oh, I didn't even think of the stink faces that people are giving you as they pass you, as they're getting on the plane. Yeah.
Okay, bud.
And in fact, set off the alarm, prop the person up, and then let them get on the plane.
Don't even let them. There should be a... Okay, I'm on board with this. I wasn't originally. We need a new group, the loser group, the cheater group.
Yeah.
Where you're the last person to get on.
You're down with the luggage.
You are the very last person to get on. So while everyone's waiting for the plane to take off, you're the last person, and you can't find a place to put your luggage. There's no overhead compartment space left. Inevitably, you have to climb over somebody to get to your seat.
You automatically get the seat by the can.
Was it
like
worth
the
it?
person by the can gets upgraded somewhere else.
Was it worth it?
Yeah,
For
exactly.
you, was it worth it?
Exactly.
You almost got in
Should have just stayed with zone 4.
3 minutes earlier than the rest, and now you're in the loser group.
Exactly. They have to be the last off the plane, too.
Correct. I like that. Last off the plane. They don't let you get off, or they lose your luggage on purpose.
They clean it first. You have to sit there until they clean the whole
You
plane.
have to help clean the plane.
See?
Here's a vacuum.
See?
Yeah, okay.
All right.
I'm a little more on board.
Hans and Scotty are coming up next. Stay tuned.
Thanks, Christian.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 DKSL Sports Zone.